Welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. My name is Paul B. Perez, and on this podcast I work on improving myself while having fun along the way with the hopes of encouraging you to do the same. And I do so by documenting my life and interests. Continuing my conversation with Max Glazer, on this episode we talk about how he added Soca music to his repertoire. We also discuss whether his daughters show any interest in DJing, and finally controlling the flow of the party. All this and more on the episode. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
You've been a big influence on me, and it's a combination of you, Mr. C, and the Dancing Squad guys made me like to go to dance hall parties and kind of shy away from the hip hop. Another place where you've been very influential to me, I was never a big soca guy. I did not like soca. Coming to your parties, you started to play more and more soca. And the combination of you and Micro Don, may he rest in peace, and Gravy, it's kind of inserting this into parties, you more so than the other two gentlemen, has gotten me now into soca. So when did soca start becoming a thing for you?
I never was into soca either. I became a dancehall and a reggae guy and knew nothing about soca. Then I was like, okay, I got the 4 or 5 hit records in my thing as a backup if I need to play them. I don't know them. I'm not into them. You could see it in how I would play them.
In the party, sometimes nowadays, soca gets a bigger pop than the dance hall does sometimes. You know what I mean? So does the Afrobeat stuff.
That's a totally bigger, different conversation about like the whole sound of all of it. You know, same as you. I got more heavily into dancehall. I'm coming in it from 90s dancehall, and that style and flavor, and that was what really, really caught me. And just, you know, I didn't have any personal connection to soca. I didn't have any background in it. I didn't know about it. It just wasn't a part of my consciousness. There were like the few soca breakout records, which like Kevin Little, Turn Me On, Rupee, Tempted to Touch. Those blended right into a dancehall set. I don't really remember kind of what exactly the impetus or the kind of change there was, but there was just like a point where I would go hear other DJs that I like, hear them playing soca from a perspective of liking to play it. One of the things that gives me great joy is I love to see people loving what they do. Look, if I call a plumber and it's a guy weld pipes, and the guy comes in and is boom, this is what I do. And you're like, yo, this guy is incredible at this. So in anything, musical styles that I know nothing about, someone who plays piano, like I don't understand musically what's going on, but people who are really good and love a thing, I connect to that. So I remember seeing people play soca and then feeding off of crowd energy. And so then it depends, you know, where you go. And then if the crowd is that right balance, like, wow, this is taking this to another level. So, and then this connects to the last thing I said was, I want to have the ability to go to this level in my repertoire, because my main mission as a DJ and my goal is to create that energy and to make people have a great time. Maybe I'm fucking up by not exploring this and having this in my arsenal. To me, if there was any soca playing, I would just play it as filler to get from one thing to another. Got to a point, okay, because I started to care and like, let me learn, let me talk to people who play soca, give me a few things. Oh, I saw someone playing this, let me put this one in my set. And there also started to be a lot of 120, 125 BPM soca. So there started to be like a broader range. Dancehall had gotten very fast, chrome rhythm, dancehall rock, all of those things that are 120, 125. And then there was this soca. So there was a way to maneuver. And now I'm like, okay, well, instead of some soca as a filler, now I've got another 10 minutes of top level energy and peak. Okay, this is good. Now I'm working. I've got now I've got 20 minutes of that. Okay, this allows me to recalibrate my night, and I'm going to have more of those top energy level peaks in it. It clicked the switch in me. I enjoy this. I'm enjoying this. So I was like enjoying getting that reaction, and then like listening to the music and learning more about it and different island accents. You know, like it's hard enough to learn Jamaican patois. Then I'm like, okay, this is like from Trinidad. This is from Barbados. So I became interested in learning about it. And that kind of like carried me further into it, and then was able to meet soca people through people that I knew, and up here and having Radio Lily in Miss Lily's and doing stuff when it would go to classics like Faluma Ding and you know, Everybody Take a Jump. And I would see people play those and be like, yo, I'm stupid. I'm an idiot for not using these to like set shit on fire in a party. I'm losing out, and this is stupid. Why would I ever not take that opportunity to do it? And that was when I started bringing it, more and more into Rice and Peas. You would get a girl that would like request a soca song. I'd be like, I don't know what that is. Hold on, maybe I should know what that is. Soca was just growing in the consciousness of dancehall people. It was growing the way Afrobeat would later on, but it was just becoming more and more prevalent. You didn't have to go to a soca party to hear soca. I followed the Caribbean DJs that I looked to. When I saw them playing, I was like, oh, okay, this works. This crowd is just like my crowd. This will work for me. This isn't something that has to be Soca Fete night at Amazura. Even in Flatbush and Brooklyn and in Queens, the soca and the dancehall, I followed what I saw as those things merging more than they had previously. Because all of those people grew up together. They all live in the same neighborhoods. But I think back further, there were like soca events. There are still tons of soca events and still tons of dancehall events, but both incorporate more of the other than they used to. In 2015, I went to Trinidad and I went to Carnival. Oh my God, this is the best trip that I've ever taken in my life. This is another thing. So I talked a lot about the communal experience of listening to music together. And that's a lot about clubs and dancing and DJing. It's a communal thing. And that's a different experience than listening to it alone. And then I also, all this music out on the road, it makes it very easy to fall in love with. So like reggae is beyond this, but I've always said that to soca people when they ask, the biggest sales pitch for soca, expanding its presence in the world is you have to get people physically engaged in it. It doesn't have to be Carnival in Trinidad, but if you're trying to bring a soca show to them, you have to bring not just a musical show, you have to bring some element of the culture of it. Because like you said, same as me, soca was not my thing. It didn't make any sense to me. And then I had these like different entry points. And then the final one, I was already way in it before this, but then going to Carnival, being on a truck. Okay, yeah.
I see now, yeah.
Yeah, this makes perfect sense. I'm in.
Thank you, as always, for spending time and listening. This podcast isn't free to do, so any and all financial support would be greatly available. You could do so by donating. I leave links for that in the show notes. Or if you do any shopping on Amazon, just go through my link, which is once again in the show notes, and we get a little kickback there. Any and all support is always deeply, greatly appreciated. This podcast isn't free to do. I love doing it and I love bringing it to you. But let's go ahead and get right back into it.
I'm sure I'm not the only person who have told you when your set would come on in the party, like that was the best set of the night.
In Rice and Peas, there's a bunch of people DJing, and it's a rotation. And in general, I've been more known for I'll DJ with one other person or two other people. One, because like it wasn't my thing, because when I'm going to be with a bunch of people screaming and yelling on the mic, my set isn't going to translate. But also doing like round robin parties where there's like 6 sounds on the night or whatever, and then it's just kind of like boom, 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 boom. But with Rice and Peas, it's this team where we're all together, we're doing these parties, and so that set became a way for me to achieve the energy that I wanted. After Micro and or Bo and Gravy, one of them played all the classic dancehall, one of them had played all the brand new dancehall, and one of them had played a half hour of everything else in between, like Barrington Levy, Here I Come, Wayne Wonder, Saddest Day. Boom, forward after forward after forward. And then me as a DJ, and I want it to be good, but also because that party is really a team of people. That's not DJs who are trying to outshine each other in any way. We're trying to make it be a great party. In the service of making this a great party, okay, this is a way that these guys mostly aren't touching on it, and I can and get that energy that I'm looking for when all the big dancehall records just played. So I ended up, as you pointed out, and I forgot this, being the one who it was the way I could get my forwards. Because also, one of the things we tried to do there, again, because it's everyone together, and me personally, try not to repeat songs 2, 3, 4 times in a night, which you'll get a lot of times in like a 6, 7 sound round robin. And that just comes from me being someone who DJs a whole night, coming up around Mr. C and those guys. And there's like, there's like 2 songs, maybe you play them a couple times in a night, but it's not a thing that you do over and over. So I was always mentally aware of like not wanting to just repeat stuff. So that was very often a lane that I could go to that had not already been used and would get 110% energy out of the crowd. Because I like, just from a selfish perspective, I get a huge satisfaction out of that.
You prefer the nights when you're DJing the whole time, or you like it when it's like a bunch of sounds, you come do your thing and you bounce kind of thing? What do you prefer?
I came up DJing whole nights myself. That was like the way I learned how to DJ. So there are a lot of things that I love about that. And one of them is you control the flow of the night. You control the energy, where it is, when it is. But also, as I got older, it's a fucking marathon, 5-6 hours, standing on your feet, doing this. So more and more recently, and when I say recently, for a while, I'm good. Oh, cool. Yeah, but you want a 40-minute set? Happy to come do it. I never think that's the best display of my DJing abilities. And not saying that has to be the whole night, but sort of if I can settle in, dictate the flow of the night, which I'm less and less concerned with doing that, as I've done that a ton. But so in terms of, with Rice and Peas, and again, that's fun because it's a challenge because we're all friends. It can be a little annoying when it's 5 or 6 people on the lineup and like 2 of them may be your boys, but then 3 of them are people that are like, I'm trying to outshine this person. So the people that hire them look at me next time and book me for those gigs. There's a lot of like an adversarial element of that, which I'm just like, I'm not into. I'm not competitive in that way. But I guess it's because I've always been all right and been able to get my gigs and kind of have a bit of my own lane, which kind of like encompasses, different worlds, the Speed Mr. C world, the downtown reggae party world. It's interesting because it's something that's much more common. And I know you're a house music guy also, so I don't know specifically what events you're going to, but another friend of mine who I follow, and I haven't been to one of his parties in years, and I really want to go, is Eli Escobar. He used to work at Footwork for Bobito. So I knew him from around Fat Beats, and he's a producer. He produces music, but primarily he's a house music guy. And I see him posting up, playing at, okay, I'm doing this party today. I'm DJing open to close. For house music, it's even more important, the big picture flow of the entire night. In dancehall, we're playing like 30 seconds of a song and it's like bang, 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 bang. It's just a totally different like energy and dynamic. But a bunch of times recently, and I know like a lot, I'll see, other house music guys and dance music guys. Yeah, it's a 4-hour set. It's a 5-hour set because that's what they want to do. And this is the big guys. They're not doing it because they have to, because that's what they want to do to be able to establish their flow and house music. And it's less about the words being said, but take you on a journey through a lot of different stuff and be able to do that. And for those guys to be able to do that, oftentimes they want 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Larry Levan and Paradise Garage and like Junior Vasquez, the dudes that would play 10-hour sets. That was their shit. That was the thing that was it for them. So I'm not that crazy. But again, I come from like, I got a DJ gig. I'm new to DJing. Yeah, that's from 10 to 4. You show up, you bring your turntables. And also really importantly, in terms of reading a room and reading people, understand people, because that's a lot of what people don't do when you run in. Oh, there's a bunch of people, you come in 20 minutes before your set and you play for 45 minutes or you play for an hour. So not only did you not establish it, you haven't even seen the flow of the night. So you don't know what played 22 minutes ago. You don't know if they started the night off with Lovers Rock, because if they didn't, maybe that's something you could do in the middle of the night in a peak that would just like crush it because no one heard it yet for the night. A lot of times in those instances, like the people DJing, they can do a great job. But like for me, I just like to have some context, even if I'm not doing the whole night, just to have some context of what's been going on, because I used to get to interview a lot of DJs, hip hop DJs. I forget who said it, but like probably Clark Kent. He's like 90% of DJing is thinking. Look, you have to develop your technical DJing skills, but a huge part of it is the ability, one, the awareness that you have to, the willingness and the ability to look and understand what's going on. And that means like understanding the room, understanding how the room sounds, understanding the people that are in the room, looking at what they're reacting to. Because you can walk into a room going like, oh, cool, I'm going to play this hip hop party. Okay, I'm going to start with this, and this, and I'm going to figure it out from there. And you could walk into that party and be like, R&B and classics are really killing it. You look, this is like a 30 and over crowd. Oh, it's a lot of women. Let me reassess starting with MOP Annie Up. You can only plan it so much. That was the thing. That was like a great piece of advice. It was interesting because it wasn't even a piece of advice that Clark gave me per se, but it was something that he said in an interview as we were talking about DJing, and I've taken it to heart.
Enjoying the episode so far? Please don't forget that there was definitely a part 1 to this conversation, and I'm going to leave a link for that in the show notes. Also, if you have any feedback or if you have any comments, would love to hear what you have to say. I leave all of the ways to do that in, once again, the show notes. I want to hear what you have to say. Let's go ahead and get right back into it.
You like interviewing people.
Like, I love interviewing people. As you could tell, like, I'm happy to be interviewed. I enjoy a sit down and talk. The DJ thing, I haven't checked them. I think there's one really good podcast that does that, which is called The Road Podcast, Reflections of a DJ. A bunch of people I know have been on it as guests, and I haven't taken a minute to sit down and watch it. You should check it at some point, because I think it's a lot of, not that I couldn't add something with my stories, but I think it's a lot of people's stories in that vein of experienced DJs. Here are these situations and what happens. And, you know, it seems like they've had a broad spectrum of guests on there. So if you look through their history, I'm sure you'd find a DJ specifically that you're like, oh, I'm interested in this person.
You've also produced a lot of music as well.
I would say I've produced a few things because it's something that I would like to be doing more of and would have liked to have done more of. I just never really allocated the time for that. But yeah, I mean, we produced Vibes Cartel songs. We produced several rhythms that Federation put out. Older stuff, Pharrell, Jay-Z remix of Frontin' with Vibes Cartel and Wayne Marshall. Co-produced 2 songs on Chronic's Grammy-nominated Chronology album, which was very cool because those were 2 things that we made for a mixtape. And they just were so good. And he liked them so much that they actually ended up on his album. Producer is definitely not the first thing that I put on my bio, but I would like to be doing more of it. But I have less and less time as life goes on.
What is it that you have going in Jamaica with the Rock House Hotel? Or do you have businesses in Jamaica?
I'm a partner in a hotel called Skylark Negril, which is on the beach in Negril, about 15 minutes from Rock House. My partners are the owners of Rock House Hotel. So Skylark is a Skylark and Rock House are sister properties. So I have no partnership or ownership involvement in Rock House. I'll be up there doing playlists and working on music stuff and helping with programming in that respect, because those 2 businesses are very closely intertwined. And all of that ties back to Miss Lily's, which was the initial connection, because the same majority ownership of Rock House is also the same majority ownership of Miss Lily's, where I had started the radio station when they first opened in Soho. And that was sort of what led to my relationship with them, which led to us. We did a series of concerts at Rock House with Matt Goyas, was the person who brought me into that. Then we did a series of concerts at Rock House. Then we were doing musical stuff there, then other things. And that is what led to my larger involvement in Skylark Negril. So those are all like ongoing things that are, again, part of this. Here's something outside of my DJing that is a big chunk of, you know, I'll use the term loosely, but working hours.
I see. And Skylark is a hotel. It's a hotel, yes?
Yeah, it's a hotel. It's a small boutique hotel on the beach, on 7 Mile Beach in Negril.
Nice. Very nice.
And the restaurant at Skylark Negril is a Miss Lily's. So that's Miss Lily's Negril. So all the things, as you can see, are very, very much intertwined.
Do any of the girls, in terms of your 2 beautiful daughters, your 2 very young, beautiful daughters, do you see any kind of interest in either DJing or in the music?
They're very young kids. They love music. They dance around to Disney songs. We play Chronix all day long. Each one of them has a song that they refer to as their born song, which is sort of their theme song from birth. So Charlie, the older ones, is Chronix I Can. She does dance routine. She sings the whole thing. When Ryan was born, my younger daughter, the first song she ever heard was Toast by Coffee, which I think is also a very celebratory. So they both know that those are their born songs, as little kids will. They'll jump around and dance to music. They'll come downstairs, Charlie, who's older, and I'll turn on the controller and plug in the thing, and she'll mess around. I don't force it. And sometimes she'll say she wants to do it, and then we'll do it. Kids are going to gravitate towards what's around and what their parents do. You try to expose your children to lots of different things, but at the end of the day, the things that they're around the most, they're the most exposed to.
What's it been like being a dad?
Great, and it's maddening, and it's frustrating, and it's awesome all in one. You can't use reason and logic. As you can see, I like to talk. All this kind of talking doesn't really mean shit to a 5-year-old that's upset about something. I could give you lots of logical, reasonable things that make sense, and it means nothing to a 5-year-old, and even less to a 2-year-old. You have to learn a whole different way of communicating, but also a different way of like listening and understanding. It's easy to try to communicate with a 5-year-old like you're talking to someone who's your same age, and it doesn't work.
You want to have any more?
I think we're good. I think both of us have agreed. I've been given some advice that you don't want the kids to outnumber the parents. 2 and 2, you can play one-on-one defense, but once you're beyond that, I think we're pretty comfortably settled at at where we are.
Did you meet Mrs. Max Glazer at a party as well?
Definitely. The only clubs and parties has been the primary place that I've existed my entire adult life with other people. That's the place where I interact with people that aren't people that I already know. If I already know you, you know my friend Ari and my friend Matt, like those are people that I know. We're gonna go link up somewhere, have a drink, have dinner or whatever. But you know this, like you've rarely seen me at a party. I think you probably commented on it anytime you have seen me at a party that I wasn't DJing. So I'm generally not out and about unless I'm DJing.
I mean, was it a thing that you saw her at a bunch of parties, or you like saw her at one party? It's like, I got to talk to this girl.
No, we met at one specific party. I think it was the first night she had come out to a party that I had done. She had never been to one. She wasn't in that scene of people.
Is there anything that you haven't done that you still want to do in your upcoming years? Like a project or maybe a particular thing that you really, it's in the back of your mind that's ruminating back there. And this can change, of course, because, life happens.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, there's probably a lot of things, but you mentioned, it's like, oh, you should, write a book. That's something that I want to do. I don't think necessarily that many people would, and maybe I'll be wrong, I'll be happy to be wrong, would necessarily want to read that book. But the exercise for me of doing it and providing that information for my kids, maybe that would be something that I would kind of like do in that format, but not attempt to be published. Then that's just a personal documentation of a lot of these stories and like my life growing up that my kids would have. I like writing. Like I enjoy writing. Oh. Writing allows me the thoughts come out in a little bit of a different way for me when I'm writing. And I can kind of do bullet points and then rearrange and go back to it and be like, okay, here's the rest of that. Whereas, as you know, from talking to me in normal life and also here, I'll go pretty far down like one lane or one question of the thing. Whereas if I'm trying to get through a story, writing or typing allows me a little bit more focus. This is very enjoyable for me to sit here and talk to you because we know each other and it's always fun to talk to you. But also it's similar to how I like to interview people, which is just, it's a conversation. I do the same thing. You have questions that are key points that you want to address, but also everything in between that is just, okay, cool. You're cool with wherever it goes. And it goes where it goes. So for me, interviewing people is also like that. And that's how I enjoy doing it. But putting my own thoughts down, I'm not into it being as free form as how I like to interview people and how it is fun to sit here. This
year in COVID, you've had time to actually kind of slow down. And you were telling me you were able to reconnect with a lot of older friends, which I think is great. You've been getting more sleep, which I think is great. Just so grateful to have had this opportunity to talk with you. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time.
Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and it just goes to show, like, a lot of times I've asked a lot of people to come on and they just kind of blew me off. This is showing me, like, if I'm persistent, then I can get people that I really want to talk to. Like you, who has given me so much entertainment and have brought me so many sweaty nights of joy with friends and times that I will never forget, that I got to like speak with you and we got to talk and hear your story, because I just was curious about you, you know?
I mean, Paul, one, I appreciate that so much. Like, it means a lot. And thank you. And also, I want to reciprocate the same thing because, like I said earlier, you're one of those people that before we really knew each other, anytime that I saw you in the party, I knew that there was always going to be that you were always going to be there with like 110% energy, because that's what you came out for, because that's like the person that you are. You come out to enjoy yourself, and your enjoyment always in my watching of it is never been based on other people's enjoyment, the size of the crowd, how good the sound system is. Just really like music. You come from music. You come from music and to dance. And there's all this other great stuff that follows along with that, which is friends and the good times. You've always been able to get everything that can be gotten from that experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been an energizing thing, certainly for me, and I think for like all of us in the crew. When we see you, we know we're doing something right.
That's the end of this episode, and I'll leave links to what Max mentioned in this episode in terms of that Reflections of a DJ podcast. Also, I'm going to leave a link to a interview that he did that I referenced for this particular conversation. And finally, check out Max's fantastic podcast, The Federation Invasion, where weekly he does dance hall mixes. If you're a fan of dance hall, you will definitely dig this podcast, and you can find it where you would find most major podcasts. That's once again the Federation Invasion podcast. New music every week, new dance hall mix every week. I'll talk to you sooner than later. Peace.